How are you doing today? Happy New Year.
Yes, Happy New Year, Michelle. I'm doing well, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm doing good. Minus technical difficulties, we are good to go.
Right, right.
We're doing our best. We're all doing our best. Well, I'm going to go ahead. I want to be respectful of your time. Folks may jump on. I gave them the information. But in the meantime, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for being here. And I would love to just kind of explain why we're doing this. Rise Together was started because we know that the city is in crisis, but that it just doesn't have to be this way. That Angelenos can create real, positive, lasting change. And we can do that most specifically through engaging in local politics and engaging in our local elections. The purpose of these interviews is just to give people a really good place to start, to discover who's running, what they stand for, and what people are talking about. So it's not any part of our endorsement process or an indication of support for or opposition to any candidates, just an opportunity for all of us to get to know each other.
Great.
So, yes. And with that, thank you again for being on. And I'm going to start with our most basic question that we always start with, which is, what does the city attorney do? And how does it affect our lives?
Sure. No, thank you for having me and for hosting this forum. Because today is January 6th, I'd like to just pause and reflect on the importance of this day because it's the first anniversary of the insurrection. And when I reflect upon it, of course, there's a lot of sadness and it was terrifying. But on the other hand, we won, right? Democracy prevailed that day. Our institutions survived. We had a peaceful transfer of power. And to me, I try to remember this day as a day we recommit ourselves to building a more inclusive, stronger democracy. And I also want to thank you for what you're doing, because Rise Together really is a big part of what we need to do. Have more conversations, encourage community engagement, and make sure everyone's voice is heard. Mm-hmm. That's the type of democracy I hope we can build, and I want to thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
And then to move on to your question, right? What does the city attorney's office do? The city attorney handles civil and criminal matters. On the civil side, the city attorney acts like the general counsel, and it advises the mayor, the city council, and all the municipal departments about issues before the city. It helps write the laws, it writes the laws, and it also represents the city in litigation. On the criminal side, the city attorney is the city's chief prosecutor. Mm-hmm. It handles misdemeanors that occur in the city, such as drunk driving, domestic violence, those types of issues.
Amazing. That is very helpful. And also I appreciate how concise that was. I think, well, first, before I dive into more questions, I'd love to get to know you a little bit better, hear about your background and why you chose to run.
Sure. I think I bring a variety of perspectives to this office. I am the son of immigrants from India. I am the chair of the board and a longtime volunteer with an organization called Imagine LA. We mentor formerly homeless families and provide other services as well. I used to work in affordable housing, and today I am a partner at a business law firm. We advise businesses going through financial difficulties. Mm-hmm. I also teach at LA City College, and I'm a husband and I'm a father to two amazing children. So I think all of those perspectives provide me with unique skills and experiences to help solve key challenges facing our city today.
Awesome. Well, that is so much going on. I appreciate all you're doing. Well, to be honest, I still kind of am learning more about how the city works and how government works just since coming in here. And I've been doing politics for a long time. So I think kind of for the people in our community and people around the city, the two huge issues that people care about are homelessness and affordability. And I know this is a bit of a huge question, so apologies in advance, but what can a city attorney do to use their position to make sure that the local government is caring for the unhoused and creating a city that we can actually afford to live in.
Yeah, those are key issues. I mean, I agree that those are the most pressing issues facing the city, and really the reasons why I decided to run for this office, because I felt like I've worked on these issues for a long time. So, starting with homelessness, I'll point out a few things. Of course, there's a long list, but initially, I would advise the mayor and the city council to declare a state of emergency on homelessness. That would allow us to marshal more resources and really dedicate the urgency and energy we need to treat this challenge like the humanitarian crisis that it is. Secondly, we need to the city's taking too long trying to find apartments for folks, and it's too expensive. So I would really try to focus on expediting approvals and focusing on short-term solutions to get people housed and get the services they need. I do feel like once people get into a stable place of living, it doesn't need to be their own apartment, but just a place that with a roof over their head, we can do a much better job of delivering services. So expediting approvals to make that happen. And then third, a really key issue is also preventing homelessness.
Mm-hmm.
More people are falling into homelessness every day than we're getting housed. And so there are key ways the city attorney's office can help them. One is protecting tenants from unfair evictions and making sure they have legal representation in those proceedings. There are also contracts and affordability covenants in a lot of apartments. I want to make sure that those are enforced. Those are legal terms, and the city attorney's office can play an active role there. And third, we have to end wage theft. Still today, Los Angeles is the wage theft capital of America. It's hard to believe in 2021 that $25 million of wages are stolen from workers every week. And those are workers who are already living on the edge. And we need to make sure that they receive the hard-earned wages that they have, that they should be paid. So that way we can, again, prevent homelessness.
Yeah, that is so helpful. I think it's obviously those are two issues that are really tied together kind of around affordability and homelessness. Is we have to make sure that people are getting paid and not being tossed out of their housing unfairly.
Right.
I think also kind of around the local elections. I mean, we are in 2022. It is here. It's happening. There is still a lot of distrust in local government, not just because of, the specific issues that have been occurring, but also because of a lot of broken promises or just people continuing to tell us, oh, things are going to get better. And then we never see them get better. I'd love to hear from you how you as a city attorney could make the city's policy making a little bit more transparent and hold public officials accountable.
Sure. And I'll answer that. And I want to go back to the affordability piece because I focused on homelessness.
Yeah.
And,
please do.
But I think with holding the city government accountable, and if we focus on homelessness, just for instance, right, that we passed as voters Proposition H and 5 years ago, but we found out last year from the controller's audit that happens on an annual basis that still 4 years later, only 228 units had been built, and the average cost per unit was around $530,000, which I think was astonishing to so many people. And so how do we, and I think you're right, that feeds into the distrust of what we have about government, and it's unacceptable. So we need to be more flexible in the city government to embrace creative solutions like the tiny homes and modular housing, and even some shared living facilities. But we need to act more quickly and urgently. And we also need to do more on transparency. So there is a citizens oversight committee, and we do have that yearly annual audit, but it's clearly not enough. And I think what we're missing is one person or one small committee that is solely responsible for the housing and homeless issues so that we can hold them responsible. Today, there are city and county officials, and it feels like they're just pointing fingers at one another and passing blame. And I do think that if we centralize and find somebody that we can hold accountable, whether it's a person or a group, it would make a big difference in responding to this crisis.
Absolutely. Well, and apologies, I skipped right over affordability. I would love to hear kind of what the city attorney can do about making this a place where a lot more people can afford to live.
Sure, right. Well, we haven't done enough to build new affordable housing, and then we're not also preserving the existing housing that we have. I would, first of all, be a proactive city attorney in defending our housing goals.
Mhm.
I'm excited that recently the city council approved a new housing element that identifies properties in the city where we could build 500,000 new units. Those are already being challenged. Those ideas and locations are already being challenged in court. And I want to be proactive as a city attorney to make sure we defend those goals and fight for them, because it's such an important piece of fixing Los Angeles. Secondly, we need to streamline approvals, because again, in housing, the longer it takes, the more expensive it is to build housing. And I would reform the protocols and regulations across departments, because there's so many departments in the city that touch on housing approvals, to make sure they work together and we expedite that process. And the city attorney can play a leading role. And lastly, we need to preserve affordable housing. So over the next 5 years, roughly 9,000 units of affordable housing will be converted to market rate rents. And as the city attorney, I would look to try to find legal tools to extend the covenants, the duration of the term for those provisions, so we can keep the existing stock of affordable housing while we're rushing to get more in place.
Yeah, that is so helpful, all of that. I know I have a lot of friends in the city, and finding a place that you can actually afford to live is hard. So it's good to hear that there are actual solutions that elected officials can present to make this a place that we can all live. Honestly, that is these are the big things I wanted to hit on. We just have a couple minutes left. So I want to make sure that I give you a chance. If there are other things you want people to know about you, if there are other things you want to cover, I just want to toss that over to you before we wrap up.
Sure. Well, I think that you brought up two of the key issues that are the foundation for our campaign: addressing homelessness and affordability, ending wage theft, ending corruption in City Hall are all key ways the city attorney can make life in Los Angeles better for all of us, to have a place to live and to feel like we have faith in our government again. So I appreciate your hosting this conversation. More information about me can be found at the campaign website, teddykapur.com. You also can email me. I'd be happy to write back and set a time to talk at teddykapur.com. That's my email address. So no, thank you again, Rochelle and Rise Together. I appreciate the opportunity, and it'd be an honor to serve the city. So I thank you for your consideration.
Well, thank you so much for being on. Apologies again for all the technical difficulties. And I just want to say too, I appreciate you acknowledging today and the fact that, we made it through this and we're stronger because of it. Right. So I just appreciate you acknowledging that. But thank you again. Thank you for working with us, and just appreciate you being on. You have a great one.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.